and welcome to Come Alive with Us. Today we have Leanna Hawkins, who is a marketing and investor relations consultant, media and events host, and best-selling author. I know Leanna from our days in New York, where we were introduced by a mutual friend, an ex-coworker at a Mercer, and I've just continued to follow her journey, especially on social media. She is super impressive, and I'm really excited to hear from her today. So welcome, Leanna.
Thank you for having me, Jordan. It's so nice to see you.
So nice to see you as well. So usually what we do is just, if you could give a little bit of background about yourself, and then we'll just kind of dive into a lightning round, and then we'll go a little bit deeper with some of the questions.
Perfect. So again, my name is Leanna Hawkins. I was born in Vancouver, Canada, still a Canadian citizen, and I've been in New York for almost 5 years now. In between all of those years, I have been working in finance for over 17 years in business development and investor relations, marketing. I've lived and worked in 5 different countries, 6 different cities in my 20s and my 30s, now getting closer to 40, but I'm still here doing the same stuff. And yeah, always worked in that same general area of investor relations and business development. So managing and building relationships for financial firms to help them grow their business. And sometimes it's with private equity and hedge funds. Sometimes it's been in fintech and crypto, and really just the main tenets of like marketing, relationships, and helping people grow their business in finance. And yeah, like Jordan said, we met through mutual girlfriends, who are a girlfriend that also works in the industry, here in New York a handful of years ago. And I've just been so impressed with your work in PR and starting your own firm now. And you inspire me also. You also always have really positive words for me when I'm going through the entrepreneurial roller coaster. So I'm so happy to be here with you. And I really appreciate you, Jordan. So yeah, I've been working in finance my whole career. I started Blackhawk Financial, which is my company, 10 years ago. And yes, doing all those services that I mentioned in the financial sector primarily. And on the public side of my work and in finance and media, I have anchored a television show on Yahoo Finance. I do a lot of contributing on CNBC and Bloomberg and the big networks. And I also MC and host a lot of the big conferences in business and finance in Miami, Abu Dhabi, Africa, kind of all over the world, doing stuff like that as a host, and interviewing famous investors and CEOs and really, really cool people. So that's been awesome over the last 4 or so years, building a network of Mark Cuban and people like that, which is fun. And yeah, so I think one other thing that is actually, I believe, your first lightning round question. So maybe I'll save it for that. But I can tell you guys how I sort of went from being just a private person working in the finance world to doing a lot of stuff in financial media, and then having the opportunity to expand my network and my relationships with some really well-known people because of that. And I will tell you about that after Jordan asked me the first lightning round question.
Yes. So definitely. One of our questions is to name a book or resource that has had, a significant impact on your approach to leadership, specifically, authentic leadership.
And this sounds cheesy, and it's not because I'm trying to sell my own book. Although all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds go to charity, so you can buy it if you want to. But I wrote a book when I was 29, just before my 30th birthday, called Young, Fun, and Financially Free. 100% of the proceeds go to the Lee Foundation, which provides income opportunities for people in developing countries. And the reason why I wrote the book was, first of all, it was an idea from a client of mine whose daughter was going to college and was spending hundreds of dollars a month on a credit card at Sephora. And he was like, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? And I was telling him, this is your fault and this is your problem because it's your money and you gave her the credit card and gave her no standards as to what she should be doing with it. So he's like, okay, can you please talk to her? So anyway, we did that. And he was like, that's amazing. You have a very approachable way of speaking about finance and about investing and career growth and just being your own best advocate. You should write a book. And sort of it went from there. And I never really thought of it, but it was a suggestion from him. And then also me being a marketing brain, I thought, okay, well, this could also be good for myself and my own career to sort of level up and build my own public brand as an expert in finance and in investing. And so I wrote the book, and then people started to ask me to contribute on national networks, on TV. And then I got the opportunity to start hosting conferences and events and interviewing famous people and athletes. And yeah, it's been really great. So part of the big reason of how I have been able to have authentic leadership is taking something that I was really personally passionate about, and, you know, from the financial literacy and education perspective, but also from the perspective of giving all the money back to people in developing countries that don't have the literacy or the career opportunities that we have living in a Western world, in a developed world, and just put those two things together. And now I get to talk about those things on a public scale and a platform for myself as an expert. So it kind of writing the book and doing something like that before I turned 30 and investing in myself, paying my own publicist to help me launch it and all those things, that helped me, I guess, create my own authentic leadership and just develop my own deep passion for what I do in finance as well.
That's amazing. And what an incredible cause and just journey. I'm so impressed by that. You know, I don't know that I actually knew that about you. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's really remarkable. Who would you say is your favorite authentic leader?
I have a few, and I think of women first come to mind for me, especially as I continue to get older. And now I'm, even closer to 40 than 30, which seems like it was yesterday. But a few names came to mind immediately. So not even just one, but I love Sarah Blakely, the founder of
Yes.
I love Bethany Frankel, who is like one of the original New York housewives, who was the only broke and single one in her late 30s on the show and ended up building a business. And it's not because she was on that show, but both of those women, you know, started from nothing. Sarah Blakely like cut off the feet off of her tights and then created the idea for Spanx. And now she's a billionaire. Bethany Frankel, I think her net worth is definitely in the hundreds of millions and has built multiple businesses. And both of them had a slightly later start in their businesses and their careers, and then blew up. So, you know, really, really good women examples that there is no overnight success. And even though you think you might be tripping up and, you know, kind of failing along the way, you're either learning or you're winning. And they learned and learned and learned, and then they started winning in their 40s and in their very late 30s. So, you know, sometimes I feel that way as an entrepreneur for 10 years now, that, oh my gosh, like it is still not clicking, like, you know, or it's clicking and then it's, you know, going up and down like a roller coaster, as they say with entrepreneurialism. So they're really good examples of that. And then another woman that I love is Diane von Furstenberg, the founder of the fashion brand Diane von Furstenberg. And she actually grew up in more of an aristocratic family, and she's sort of a princess of sorts, like literally. But I read her book called The Woman I Wanted to Be when I was in my 20s, and I really like it's still available. They actually have it on the shelf at her store in the Meatpacking District here in New York. And I really liked that biography that she wrote. I did some acting and modeling as well when I was in my teens and 20s. And she just had some really good perspective for women on career, accomplishment, self-image, body confidence. And, you know, she said this, and it kind of resonated with me because I was a little bit in that space. I was working in finance and I was modeling. I was trying to be everything to everyone and trying to be perfect in every way, and, you know, physically and mentally. And she just said this thing in her book that really helped me with my own physical confidence and mental, of course, because I think that they go hand in hand. Is she was saying, like, I used to have all these young girls come into the showroom in New York and want to be part of our New York Fashion Week shows. And some of these girls were doing everything they could to be a model and make it. And it's a dog eat dog world. It's like you have to be really comfortable with hearing no in the modeling and in the fashion world, but in a lot of careers. And so that's why I thought it resonated across board with many working women. She's like, specifically for modeling stuff, you know, a lot of women would come in and they're starving themselves, or they're over exercising, or they're, you know, doing all these going to crazy lengths to try to accomplish this goal that they have. And she said, a lot of people that just come in here like these, very, very, very thin women are just naturally that way. And unfortunately, if you're not that way, this just might not be the best thing for you because you're hurting yourself by trying to be something that maybe you're not. And that was just like a purely physical example. But I really liked her biography, the woman I wanted to be. And it resonated with me to like, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to kill yourself over something. And if you are, maybe it's not the right thing for you. And it kind of, it resonates in your own self and your own physical and mental confidence and your career confidence, but also expectations that other people have of you. You should only ever be competing against yourself, not against what other people think you should be or should be doing or should look like, whether it's your boss or your husband or your boyfriend or society or the people you see on Instagram. Like, you should only be competing against your best self, and that's it. So
I completely agree with that. It's you against you. And it's, I liked what you said about you're winning or you're learning, it's always just an uphill battle, but you're never failing unless you don't try, So with that in mind, what is one daily habit that sets leaders up for success in your opinion?
Definitely like my wellness practices. And the biggest would be like exercise and fresh air. So I have a dog. His name is Mickey. I love him very much. We live right at Central Park. So we're going out to Central Park every morning, getting some fresh air and getting steps in. I think I've been getting 10,000 steps a day for about 15 years now, like a long time.
Nice.
And I grew up a competitive athlete. I grew up a ski racer in Vancouver, Canada. And so that's also why I do a lot of work with pro athletes and sports for children. I think it's really important, again, to be doing sports and to getting exercise as a kid, the fresh air, learning how to win, how to lose. You basically have a job. You have to learn respect for your coach or your trainers. You have to learn how to respect your teammates and train as a team. Sometimes you're competing as a team or as an individual, but you're all in it together and supporting one another. I do feel like sports is like kids having a job. And you really learn a lot of those adult skills when you're playing sports as a kid. So it's always been really important to me for my physical and mental health to be active. And, fresh air also really helps with that. So walking the dog or going for a jog and then just other forms of exercise as well is really important to keep my mental energy and sanity every day.
Definitely. I agree with that. It's super helpful and necessary. Yeah. Always love to step away from the screens for a little bit and just get some nature in. So
yeah. And it's not just theoretical, it's scientific. I mean, Arianna Huffington, another great woman to look up to, who talks about grit and resilience and persistence and all those things that, we need as people working in this day and age. But her new company in her book called Thrive. Oh my gosh, there's hundreds. I talk about on Instagram, which is my biggest social platform, Leanna_Hawk, is my hashtag is wealthy, WELLTHY. And it's like the wellness side of wealth. Like, you need to have both in your life because you can't just completely pour yourself into wanting to make money and become wealthy in that sense. But you have to also really prioritize your mental and physical health. And in that book, Thrive, that Arianna wrote with one of her partners, and that's the company that they run now, is helping corporates bring more wellness into their corporate life to their employees because of all the statistics in that book that are just insane in terms of scientific proof of how taking care of your mind and your body will affect your ability to create and build wealth. So, for corporates and individuals, like this is science. It's not just, oh yeah, it's good to have fresh air. It's like, this is scientific fact that you should prioritize your wellness.
Yeah, I actually went to her book signing for that and got to meet her. She signed it when it first came out. So that was something that was really, really cool.
And it's on Audible too. Go for a walk and just listen to the book while you're going for a walk.
That's a great tip. And, you touched on social media being your biggest platform. How are you leveraging social media to be influential and effective with your leadership?
So I didn't really have any form of social media before my book was launched. I just wasn't an Instagram person. Like, I just don't really care. I've always had such a head down mentality with my career, and I had started my business already 4 years before that. But then when I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to write this book for financial literacy, all the proceeds go to charity. I should probably try to hope that people actually buy the book for financial literacy. So let's start an Instagram. So I had my team start Instagram and Twitter and the different platforms. And we started posting at first, like a lot of people, when you're kind of scared of the whole social media stuff and using it for marketing in your business or using it to help build your platform as a public expert in some field, I had my team posting all these financial literacy quotes and terms of the week and all these helpful things. But I said, I don't want to be any part of it. Like this has to be a Blackhawk Financial Instagram page. And like, I don't want some cheesy photos of me and me being like, ha ha ha, and posing on Wall Street. Like, I'm not doing any of that junk. And then we started doing it for about a year. Book came out, book was doing great. I was on TV doing all the things, but I'm like, I don't want my face on this stuff. Like, no. But the people that were younger than me, so by this time I'm now like 31, people that are younger than me working for me are like, yeah, we're not really getting a lot of engagement. They were telling me like corporate pages on social media platforms, like don't get a lot of engagement. Like you're the one that wrote the book. You're like the 29-year-old that was driving a Mercedes and a BMW and owned real estate and did this and that and had this lifestyle and blah, 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 like knows Mark Cuban and all these things. Like you're the one that people want to see on social media, not just your corporate page. Like you got
right. Your personal brand.
Yes. And I was so resistant to it, but eventually I got more comfortable with it. And now if you go on my social media, it's me just shooting the SHIT about anything I feel like talking about, mostly financially related, entrepreneurially related, living your wealthy, WELLTHY life. And, tips, tricks, there's a whole bunch of highlights on like money tips and different media things I've done. So it's sort of like a portfolio for me personally, but also for the business and also just a support and source of information for financial literacy and investing literacy in general. But yeah, it took at least a couple of years for me to even want to post one photo of myself.
Yeah. And I think
it takes a long time, but I have become more authentic on those platforms now by not just hiding behind the corporate shell and really embracing it for its ability to help people on financial literacy perspective and help me in my business and in building a public platform.
And I've seen, your posts where people ask you questions and maybe, having, more of yourself on the platform has prompted that comfortability for them to feel like they can reach out to you in your DMs and, seek that advice. So I think it's paying off.
Yeah, it is definitely. And there's so many, when it comes to social media and putting yourself out there and the imposter syndrome you have to deal with. Everybody deals with it. I still deal with it. I still think there are millions of more people that are smarter than I am and know more about finance and more about investing than I do that should be on some of the segments that I've been featured on. But, you have to kind of push yourself always to get over the imposter syndrome stuff because really good things in terms of helping people and for your own career can come of it. And it is a really powerful tool. There are so many the silent watchers, the silent stalkers on social media. Like there are literally CEOs of banks, billionaires, people with private jets, like actually not just renting them or renting them for an hour for a photo shoot. There are big people on Instagram and on social media that are watching you. And I know that because multiple times now in the last 6 years since I started it, I have been reached out to by insane people. I'm like, oh my gosh, like A-Rod, there's an example, messaged me on Instagram. Wow, what are you investing in? What are you interested in these days? I'm like, excuse me? You know that I am a nobody. Do you know that? Like crazy people, crazy stuff. And then you're like, wow, so glad I started this 6 years ago because this is opening doors. So, you just got it.
Well, as you go through your role, you're doing all these things, you're hosting, you're leveraging social media, you're doing so many things. What are some of the key values that guide you throughout your career?
I mean, I think, so I didn't grow up in a family with anyone working in finance. My dad's an engineer. My mom was a first grade teacher, now retired. And I think just sort of I never learned about investing growing up, but I really, really learned the value of a dollar, the value of hard work, grit, resiliency, something like, you have a lot of experience yourself personally too. And I think it's those personal, I'm very, very lucky to have very positive personal influences in my life, like my parents that were educated and hardworking and taught me the value of a dollar, clip coupons. We grew up camping, we grew up middle-class family, and my dad grew his own engineering business and now is, light years more successful and has a lot more money than when we were growing up. But yeah, when we were growing up, it was like scrimping and saving and very affordable options for everything, going to public school. Like I wasn't some princess, had 4 jobs while I was in college to pay for my college expenses and stuff. So, I'm really glad that I was able to have that perspective. And I still do. Like every penny has a purpose. And I'm so glad that I learned that growing up. And yeah, now I spend my pennies on like a lot of stuff like designer bags and whatever, but I still have the perspective of not wasting money. Like I know where every dollar is going and the purpose of all my pennies and how important it is to have that. So I'm really glad that my family instilled in me the value of a dollar and the value of hard work and resiliency. Like I had, my younger sister passed away suddenly when we were kids. And, watching my parents go through that, watching them get divorced, watching my mom not having worked in over 15 years, having to go back to work again. And after the divorce and like find a teaching job in her 40s, and she hadn't worked since her 20s. And, all the strife that families go through and struggle, and like seeing my parents work their way out of these holes mentally and financially through different points of grief. So I'm very lucky that I had such great parents and really good lessons growing up.
That's amazing. And, I'm sorry about your sister, but you are so resilient, and it's incredible that they, gifted you with those values that you've held on to. And, that kind of leads to the next question, which is, in addition to, your parents, do you have a mentor? And if so, how has mentorship, impacted your leadership journey?
Well, also, I just like to give you credit too, Jordan. Like, I think that any personal strife, the way that it's handled, or way that it could even be mirrored to you as a child, and you not as a child anymore, but like going through cancer with your mom, like your family's resilience, commitment to each other, support of each other, like these terrible things that happen to us in our life, the way that they're dealt with us personally, and the way that our parents mirror that to us, or influential people in our life mirror that to us, is really reflective of your career. And even especially as an entrepreneur, the ups and downs. So again, I'm really grateful that although unfortunate things happen to us and our families, it can be handled in a way that makes you a better person. So kudos to you and your family as well. My book, I actually, literally the dedication, I didn't mean to have this on my desk. I'm doing edits to my book for the next, I'm doing a next edition, but the dedication in my book, I'll read it to you, is this: to all the family and friends who have ever supported and encouraged me in my madness. I know I'm crazy. Thank you for loving me for it. And to every person I've ever taken out to coffee, drinks, a meal, hopped on a flight to meet, or had a call with when our busy worlds kept us apart, you have educated and inspired me to get to this point. You had no idea your influence on me at the time. However, you've been so truly instrumental in helping me become the knowledgeable woman I am today. I can't appreciate or thank you enough. Strong mentors of the backbone of individual success, and I am so honored to have each of you in my life. That is the dedication of my book, which literally just happened to be on my desk. I did not plan to bring that out for this question, but that just to tell you how much I believe in mentorship. And it's, young people come to me now and they'll be like, who are your mentors? How did you ask them to be your mentor? It's not to me,
hey, will you be my mentor?
Yeah, it's not like a formal, like jump in the mentor program. There's no sign up list or agreement, right? There's no, will you be my boyfriend question out of it. It's like, or are we boyfriend, girlfriend? It's not like that. Like, it's just meeting older people. I think it's easier to call them mentors when you're younger in your career. Now in my late 30s, like I just call guys in their 50s.
Friends,
my friends.
Yeah.
When I was a 22-year-old girl, calling a 59-year-old guy my friend is maybe a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit weird. So I would say I have lots of mentors, and and the way that I got these mentors or friends, whatever you want to call them, is finding interesting people on LinkedIn, connecting with interesting people on Instagram and other pages on social media, connecting with people at networking events. I would always have business cards, make sure I always have physical business cards, and like nobody even brings it anymore. But I love it. And I always follow up, and then I offer to take them to lunch or coffee or dinner or drink or whatever's most appropriate. And I paid the bill. I always pay the bill, no matter how wealthy the person is. Like I always made sure I snuck out to the restroom and paid the bill, because you want to show appreciation for the time. It's not about the money, it's about the principle. And so if you don't have a lot of money, make sure it's coffee, but make sure you pay the bill. Get there early, text them, what can I get for you? Offer to get up and go do the ordering, like offer. And, sometimes there's been a few times where people have absolutely not let me pay for the lunch or whatever, but they will remember how hard you tried, because it's the principle of it. You are showing the principle, you appreciate their time. So there are people that are mentors of mine that I've had, men and women, from my early 20s that over 15 years later, brokers, analysts, fund managers, big, well-known people that are still my friends and are still referring me clients to this day because they remember I appreciated their time. So a massive, massive supporter and believer in mentorships and friendships.
I absolutely agree with all of that. And I employ the same, tactics, if you will, as you. It's really about relationship building and, demonstrating, like you said, your appreciation for their time and your respect for them, taking that time to foster a relationship with you. So totally agree there. For some people, it might be kind of hard to approach this. Like we were talking about, it's not just do you like me? Check yes or no. It's, an ongoing, relationship building effort. So in your opinion, how can people break out of their comfort zone for more professional growth? And that might include, obtaining a mentor. That could look like, getting on social if they're not, whatever it is. What are some ways that you think people can kind of break out of those comfort zones and pursue that professional growth?
So depending on what you're doing or where you're trying to grow, social media may or may not be a great place. I think LinkedIn is a great place to randomly message people in any industry. Literally, if you're a hairstylist or you're a banker, like everyone is on LinkedIn who is in a business. And if you're listening to this and you're not, you should definitely get it. Yeah. Perfect example. I was at a very, very, very wealthy friend's home in Aspen, Colorado a few weeks ago. They have a $40 million home sitting there with a bunch of their friends, a woman that founded Guilt. There's very cool people in this room, about a dozen of us at this home. And one of their sons of the home, I think he's 8 or 9 years old, comes and sits next to his mom and I, who are chatting. And he just sits there and goes, "Mom, can I download a new app?" And he's holding his iPhone. She's like, "Okay, what do you want to download?" And he's asking about all these games. And she's like, "Oh, there's guns in that one. There's a lot of violence out. No. And he goes, "Mom, can I get LinkedIn?" I'm like, who is your child?
Yeah.
That child is hanging in the right circles. Well,
right.
That way. You would never believe it. His next question was, "Can I get a Morgan Stanley account?"
Okay.
Okay. Like literally, and his parents don't work for Morgan Stanley. But
wow.
First of all, who is this kid? But let's just say that kid has been sitting in the right rooms, listening to the right people, because half the people in the room are billionaires. They all own homes in Aspen. They're all CEOs and founders. I'm sure, the poorest person in the room, but I like to put myself in those rooms. And that kid is so lucky to be in that room too, asking for a LinkedIn profile at 8 years old.
Yeah.
So everyone should have it. What I started doing, like when I was in college, I remember on LinkedIn, it was just starting to get a little bit bigger, like back in 2006 or something, this probably was. And I saw like this guy that had a really cool name. I won't say his first name, but like his last name was Lovelock. And I was like, ooh, what a cool name, whatever, Lovelock. And his job title was like head of business development at this firm under like hospitality and tourism. And like basically his whole job was like to go to all of these different resorts and like confirm that they were good enough for clients of the bank to go to. Or like it was some crazy job. I'm like, and then he had this cool name. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, I want that job. So I just messaged this guy, wow, like sounds like you have a really interesting career. Like I'm in this program right now. I would love if you have 15 minutes to spare to have a quick phone call about your career and how you got this amazing job. I find it so inspiring. Reach out to people like that, genuinely interested, graciously ask for 15 minutes of their time for an introduction call. I guarantee you that person on that call is going to be so impressed that you did that they're willing to introduce you to their boss. They're willing to introduce you to their internship program. They're willing to introduce you to whoever you want to know. Like that's just start things that way. And then the other great way to break into any industry, if you're making a career pivot or you're just starting to get, growth in your own space, if you're a little bit younger, is almost every industry has like industry associations. Like the financial industry has like the CFA Institute, the AMA Institute, the Kaya Institute, and like they all have these like free memberships and free networking events. So look up, again, if you're in hairstyling, like hair associations, hairstylist associations America. I guarantee you there's 2 or 3 of them, and they probably have free events somewhere near you multiple times a year. Go start networking with people in your industry.
Yeah. That's so true. You know, networking is everything, and you are a, culmination of the top 5 people that you surround yourself with. And so it's really important to put yourself into those environments and to break out of your comfort zone to be able to access those environments. So
that's why I always say I'm happy to be the stupidest person in the room and ask all the questions.
Absolutely. You always want to be learning. And I think for my last question is, what legacy do you want to leave as a leader?
I think that, and this sort of, you had asked me at some point, I think before the show, like what I think about how I would describe authentic leadership. And that's sort of the way I would describe the way I would want my legacy to be viewed as well. I think that if I can look back on my life on my deathbed and see all of my actions and the way that I treated people and be proud of that, that's the legacy I want to leave. And that's the type of authentic leader that I want to be, whether it's a public person that I sort of am now, or in my family. And if I end up having kids and a spouse and my parents, my grandparents, if I would view my actions and the way that I made people feel and the way that I treated people at the end of my life and look at that and be proud of that, then that's the kind of legacy I want.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. It has been so great catching up with you and, hearing all of your insights. And you've got to get down to Dallas soon and visit me. I miss you. So
I love Dallas. It's probably going to be my next city that I'm posted up very seriously. So if anyone wants to meet up in Dallas or anybody needs financial literacy help, investing help, career guidance, whatever it is, I'm very active on Instagram. Feel free to reach out to me there, LEANNA_Hawk, HAWK. And my company is Blackhawk Financial. We do business development, marketing, and investor relations services for funds and service providers, primarily in the field of finance. But I do public speaking, and again, happy to help anyone you think I might be able to connect you with, or anything you think I might know the answer to.
Awesome.
I give away a lot of my time and I love it. So feel free to hit me up.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to, putting this episode out.
Thank you so much. You too, Jord.
Great. Bye.
Bye.